In 1969, there was almost nothing in American life that did not pass through one company. The washing machine in the basement, the tires on the car, the paint on the walls, the wrench on the workbench, the refrigerator, the lawnmower, the kids' bikes under the Christmas tree, and for tens of thousands of families, the house itself. That company was Sears. And it was not just a store. It was the closest thing America ever had to a single national catalog for how to live. At its peak, Sears was the largest retailer on earth. It employed hundreds of thousands of people. It built the tallest building in the world and put its own name on top of it. If you wanted to compare it to something today, you would have to imagine Amazon, except an Amazon that also made your tools, insured your car, issued your credit card, and mailed you an entire house in a boxcar. Today, it is gone. Not quite all the way, but close enough that most Americans would be surprised to learn Sears still technically exists at all. The stores are dark, the parking lots are empty, the great catalog is a collector's item. Here's the part that matters. Sears was not killed by Walmart. It was not killed by the internet. Those are the easy answers, and they are wrong. The real story is stranger, and it is worse, because Sears did not simply lose. It was taken apart, deliberately, piece by piece, by one man who found a way to make more money dismantling it than anyone could make keeping it alive. Hold on to that idea, because the way he did it is the part almost nobody talks about. But to understand the fall, you have to understand how big this thing really was. It started with a watch. In 1886, a railroad station agent named Richard Sears got his hands on a shipment of watches nobody had claimed. He sold them by mail, at a profit, and realized something that would reshape the country. Out in rural America, far from any city store, people were starving for goods and paying too much for them. Sears could cut out the middleman, print a catalog, and ship anything to anyone with a mailbox. By the early 1900s, the Sears catalog had become an institution. The Big General book ran hundreds of pages. The Christmas edition had its own name, the Wish Book. You could order seeds, stoves, sewing machines, violins, even gravestones. And yes, entire houses. Between roughly 1908 and 1940, Sears sold tens of thousands of build-it-yourself homes, shipped as numbered kits on the railroad. Some of them are still standing today, lived in by people who have no idea their house arrived in the mail. And here is the promise underneath all of it, the promise that made Sears different. When Sears put its name on something, it stood behind it. The Craftsman wrench your father kept on his workbench came with a lifetime guarantee. It broke, you brought it back, they replaced it. No receipt, no questions. Guaranteed for life. Remember that phrase, it's going to matter later. Through the 20th century, Sears didn't just sell products, it created them and turned them into American institutions. Craftsman tools, Kenmore appliances, Die-Hard batteries. It launched Allstate Insurance. It created the Discover card. It owned brokerage firms and real estate companies. For decades, Sears reached into the majority of American homes, its catalog on the shelf, its appliances in the kitchen, its tools in the garage. It wasn't a retailer with a catalog. It was an empire that happened to have stores attached. In 1973, that empire built a monument to itself. The Sears Tower in Chicago, 110 stories, the tallest building in the world, and it held that title for the next quarter century. Stand in front of it, and the message was obvious. This company was permanent. It had outlasted the Depression, 2 world wars, and every competitor foolish enough to challenge it. Sears would always be there. And that belief, that Sears would always be there, is exactly the thing that made what came next possible. Because a company everyone assumes is permanent stops paying attention. Through the 1980s and into the 1990s, the stores got tired. The catalog that built the company started to feel slow next to a new kind of competitor. In 1991, Sears lost the crown it had held for generations as Walmart passed it to become the largest retailer in America. 2 years later, Sears shut down the Big Book catalog, the very thing it had been born as. The engine was switched off. And the great irony is this: the company that invented shopping from home by mail killed that business right as America was about to fall in love with shopping from home all over again, this time on a screen. Sears was wounded. It was slow, it was overbuilt, it was behind. But wounded is not dead. Plenty of old giants get slow and survive. What happened to Sears next was not slow decline. It was something colder. In 2005, a hedge fund manager named Eddie Lampert merged Sears with Kmart and took control of the whole thing. Wall Street loved him. They called him the next Warren Buffett. Investors believed he would unlock the hidden value trapped inside this sleepy old giant. And in a sense, that's exactly what he did. Just not for the people who worked there, or shopped there, or trusted the name. Here's the method, the part nobody talks about. Lampert didn't run Sears like a store that needed to win customers. He ran it like a pile of assets that needed to be squeezed. He split the company into more than 30 separate units and made them compete against each other, separate budgets, separate leaders, fighting over resources inside the same building. Divisions that were supposed to be one company started behaving like rivals. Meanwhile, the stores themselves were starved. Lights burned out and stayed out. Shelves went unstocked. Anyone who walked into a Sears in those years remembers the feeling. It felt abandoned while it was still open. And while the stores decayed, the valuable pieces were sold off one by one. The most beloved brands, the ones your father trusted, went to the highest bidder. Craftsman, the lifetime guaranteed American toolmaker, was sold to Stanley Black & Decker in 2017. The real estate, the actual land under the stores, was spun into a separate company that Lampert also controlled, which then collected rent from the dying Sears. Read that again. The man in charge of saving Sears set up a company to be Sears' landlord. This is the difference the whole story turns on. Richard Sears built something to last and guaranteed it for life. Eddie Lampert took something that had already lasted a century and sold it for parts. One man made things, the other took things apart. The human cost came store by store, town by town. Tens of thousands of employees lost their jobs. The anchor of the local mall went dark, and often the mall died with it. In October 2018, Sears Holdings filed for bankruptcy. And in the final twist, the same man who presided over the collapse bought the leftovers out of bankruptcy for around $5 billion, keeping a hollow version of Sears alive under a new name, just enough of a shell to keep the story from fully ending and to keep the assets in the same hands. A company that once had thousands of stores now has a number you can almost count on two hands. The wish book is gone. The tower still stands in Chicago, but it has not carried the Sears name in years. If you ever worked a Sears floor, or waited by the mailbox for the catalog to arrive, or learned to fix a car with tools from that store, tell me in the comments what it felt like to watch it disappear. I read every one. Because here's what should stay with you. We like to tell ourselves that companies like this die of progress, that Amazon came along and nature took its course. But Sears didn't die of the future. It died because the people who ended up in charge of it valued the company more in pieces than whole. The store that promised it would always be there was worth more to them gone. And somewhere in America tonight, on a workbench in a quiet garage, there's a Craftsman wrench, a little worn, still working, still doing exactly what it was built to do. It was guaranteed for life. It outlived the company that made it. The tool kept its promise. The men in the boardroom did not. If stories like this one, real American giants, brought down not by fate, but by the people who were supposed to protect them, if that's what you came for, subscribe and stick around. There are a lot more giants, and every single one of them fell for a reason.